Guidance in Florida has some school districts directing teachers to cover up or remove books in their classrooms. The State Board of Education ruled last month that a law restricting school libraries from displaying or giving students certain books that have not been vetted, like those viewed to contain sexual content, also applies to books displayed in classrooms. Any teacher that violates this could face up to 5 years in prison and a $5,000 fine. Joining us now is Don Falls, who teaches history and American government at Manatee High School in Florida. Thank you so much for joining us. You've said that you don't want to go through the vetting process because you have hundreds of books in your classroom. Do you have titles in particular that you're worried will violate this guidance?
Not specific titles, but I do have an extensive library of literature and history books. I have books on slavery, on race. I have books on, for example, I have a book on the history of abortion in America. And I'm not sure how they would go through the vetting process, but I'm not really concerned about it. From a standpoint of vetting the books, it's just a matter of a practical ability to be able to do it. That many books trying to enter them into a system, it's time that I could be spent with my students and doing other things and not, putting books into a computer base.
We reached out to the Manatee County School District, and they say that books that aren't being vetted need to be covered. But you're being told something different now about covering up the books?
Well, we were told last week or earlier this week that the covering is not necessary as long as books that have not been vetted are not given out to students. So if I have books on my shelf that have not gone through the system, then they can be visible, but they can't be given out to the students. That was the last information that we were given as far as how to handle our libraries in our classroom.
Florida Education Commissioner Manny Diaz Jr. said this about the law on Twitter. A teacher or any adult faces a felony if they knowingly distribute egregious material such as images which depict sexual conduct, sexual battery, bestiality, or sadomasochistic abuse. Who could be against that? End quote. How do you respond?
Well, I agree with Mr. Diaz. I mean, I would never put pornography in a student's hands or whatever, but he's only referring to part of the issue here. HB 7, the Anti-Woke Act, also limits the kind of information that we can give students. For example, if a student feels bad, if we make a student feel uncomfortable about the content that is being presented, whether I'm presenting it in a classroom situation or they read it in a book, then we've also violated the law, and my understanding is we've faced similar kind of penalty. So the idea that it's only books about bestiality and pornography and so forth, it's much broader than that, what they're looking at. And frankly, in all my years of teaching, those things that Mr. Diaz is referring to, they've always not been allowed. Teachers have never given out pornography and bestiality books to students. And to me, that's one of the big issues here, that this is an attempt to mold public opinion into believing that these things are somehow regularly occurring, and they haven't.
You're a history and American government teacher. How have Florida laws regulating what students can be taught and exposed to impacted your usual curriculum? Are there certain things that now you're no longer teaching?
So far, I haven't taken anything out of my curriculum, but I will say that I think a lot more carefully about the presentation, how students react to it. For example, last week I was doing a couple of lessons on civil rights, looking at the Albany movement, Birmingham, 1963, and of course some of those images of those periods are quite can be quite upsetting. Dogs turned on little girls, fire hoses, things such as that. So as we're going through this and I'm talking about, I'm showing them some of these images, in the back of my mind I was saying, well, if a student here gets upset about these, have I violated the law? But the information to me is too important to deny students. And so I'm still going to continue to do what I'm doing.
Well, Don Falls, we thank you so much for all that you do as teachers who just don't get the recognition that they deserve. And so we salute you and really appreciate you giving us your time and insight tonight.
Well, I thank you for highlighting this issue. I think it's an important issue that people need to be aware of. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.